Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you are well. I am Dr. Tammy Francis. I am your success strategist and literacy educator. I help you strategize how to move in the direction of more and prepare for what's next. And today you have just landed in the right place because we are discussing another book with another author. We have another guest today, and this is C4C Global Cypher, a virtual book discussion where we read a book every month and we discuss it. This month, because we're reading an anthology and it is a book with 33 authors, I decided to invite some of them on to share their chapters. Since we can't discuss every chapter, I figured we highlight a few chapters. So we have had an interview with Nina Thomas, who goes by Nina Motivates, to talk about she compiled the book. Get my directions together. She compiled the book. And then we had a few weeks ago, we had Trifania Osei, who goes by Elegant Granny on social media. And today we have Miss Daria Rosen, and she goes by Daria Rosen. And so I will put her information up when she comes in and she introduces herself. But we are reading this book, and we have discussed several chapters in there in addition to the author's chapter. So we discussed their chapter, but we also discussed some other things that we like about the book as well. So if you're not reading with us, you can get it, and you can definitely go to Daria's website, dariarosen.com, and get the book and get your copy. If you are here in the US, we will get more information on how she handles international customers. But I know if you're in the US, you can get a signed copy from her. It is also available on Amazon, so you can also go there and get it as well. So if this is your first time joining us, please say hello to us in the comments so we know you're here. And two, engage with us, ask us questions, put comments, and share it out. Share, 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 share. Share it out. We appreciate any shares onto your page, into a messenger, tag someone in the comments, whatever, just share. So I'm going to invite our guest in, Ms. Daria Rosen, so she can introduce herself and tell a little bit about herself. And then we're just going to hop into her chapter and talk about all things Daria Rosen today. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Like I said, comment, say hello, and then share it out. Hello, Daria.
Hello, Dr. Tammy. How are you?
I am great. I'm great. I'm great. So please introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll get started.
I am Daria Rosen. I am known as Daria Rosen on the internet streets. And I will tell you, I am a reluctant author, but it has been a wonderful, wonderful journey. So my background is, which will come, well, some of it will come up in the interview, but I am a military brat. I am an only child. I am an entrepreneur. I am a musician. And I am a techie, IT techie.
Yes, and that's kind of one of those things that you don't really talk about as much, anymore. You mention it occasionally, but I forget that, that's kind of where you started. So we're going to talk about some of this. So let's talk about your chapter. So what is the title of your chapter?
So the chapter.
Let me do this, because the book is broken into parts 1, 2, and 3, and Daria's in part 3. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her title.
The title is When Are You Going to Go Home?
Ooh. And so why did you name it, title it that? What sparked that title? What was the thing? Or where did that question come from?
Where that question came from, so I have to give you the background, which is why I shared that I am an IT consultant. I was on assignment out of state for 3.5 years. So I would leave the house on Sunday afternoons, and I would not return home until Thursday evening. So I was gone. And I also shared that I'm an only child. So as most of you or many of you will know, only children and their parents are typically very close. And my mother asked that question one day, when are you going to go home? And I I got an attitude because I'm like, I am home. She said, no, you're not. You spend more time in Seattle and with the people in Seattle than you do with the people here. That's home. And to have my mother tell me that I wasn't home, that
Oh,
that didn't feel
yeah.
good.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Like, Mom, what? Hello. I'm with you all the time. So in your chapter, you tell the story and you talk more in depth about that. So if you want to know the entire story. But one of the things that I pulled out some key terms that
Okay.
I think are ideas that I think um the process that you went through. And one of those was this idea of being incognito and invisible, and that desire to be invisible and incognito. But that was difficult for you. Why? And I think it was twofold. I think it was twofold.
It, it, it's been multiple fold. I've always said, I just want to do my job, be incognito, meaning I didn't necessarily need the accolades or I just wanted to do my job.
Right.
However, because of my personality and because I ask questions, because as my mother says, you're an almost 6 foot tall Black woman, you really can't be incognito. And so I would ask people questions, or if I saw something that was wrong, I'd call it out. You can't be incognito when you're calling stuff out.
Yeah.
And so my career, my corporate career, because I have spent over 30 some years in corporate America, has always been me wanting to be incognito, but because of what I do and how I carry myself, I never have been. Um, and that, but here's the other piece, and this is the piece that is more the personal piece. Both of my parents are very, very outgoing, very, very flamboyant. And I always said, if you went into a crowd or to a restaurant or a picnic, wherever the crowd was,
Mhm.
that where my parents were in the middle. And I never felt that I could be like them. So I always wanted to just be on the side. I didn't want that attention. So that's how that incognito has played out. I just want to watch. Get things done, but watch.
Right. Yeah. And I noticed that that was kind of a theme in the first part of your chapter. And then you move into this idea about your choices and how those were impacted by other people. And so you address this idea of outside influences and how that really, I guess, I don't want to say altered, but it kind of changed what you were going to do or how you felt about what you really desired to do. And a lot of my platform is doing that thing that you really desire, doing that thing that you love. And if you have a goal, just go for it. But in that, I also know that we have some challenges, and you talk about two of them. And I think one was outside influence, and the other one was self doubt, and
Correct.
how those two things played on each other. And so, could you tell us a little bit about that process? Not necessarily, you don't have to tell too much about your story, but just the process of the shift from being invisible, this outside influences, self doubt, and moving into this idea of making a decision, being visible, and believing. And that's kind of how I see your chapter shifting. It goes from those things and it shifts. So just give us a little insight on that process, like the mindset work that you had to do for that.
So I'm going to start at the end part of that because
Okay.
even though there was the shift and I am vastly improved and less likely to be incognito, there are still those moments where I have had to read my chapter to remind myself, you can you can do this. You can yes, there are going to be people who disagree with you. Yes, there are going to be people who don't like what you're doing or think that what you're doing is not best for you. But I have to be confident enough to say, okay, they don't. Am I going to allow them to hold me back?
Right.
And so that part of it is that, yes, I have had to step out of my comfort zone. And I'm a quick one to run back in. My husband calls me touche turtle because what do turtles do? They go in their shell.
Yeah.
That's where it's comfortable. And so that stepping out and making the decision, and I'm going to call it a battle. It is a battle, sometimes daily, to step out, to do the things that I want to do, not, when I say not caring, not having what others think, caring more about that than what is best for me and my family. So I don't know if I answered the question, Dr. Tammy.
Yes, you did. Any way you want. I just know that it was thing because one of the things I want, because I know that we have so many things that we encounter when we're trying to reach our goals and when we're in transition and we're shifting, and part of that is restlessness and things like that. But the other thing is, what do you want folks to walk away from? Like when they're reading your chapter, you're telling your story, you're giving them a piece of you. What is the one thing that you want them to take away, or two? It could be one or two.
Okay. I want them to know that it is a journey and that when you reach one hurdle, you may find something else where you tend to want to go back. It's a constant growth. It is unlike I won't say how I ended the chapter, but unlike how I ended the chapter, it is a continual. You step forward. You may have moments when there are setbacks, but you have to believe enough in yourself to know, if I could overcome this, then I can overcome the next thing. Because in each thing that we overcome, we become stronger. And you never know who's watching you. You never know who's watching your journey. And what you have overcome may just be what the person who's watching is struggling with, and that they see that, wow, if she did it, then I can do it. And the other thing, too, is that the perception of others, because remember, I said at the beginning, most people who even know me and know me well were surprised by the words that I wrote, because they never, hello, social attraction, Trafania, they never knew, because what I portrayed was all of this confidence, not the doubt, the self-doubt.
Right.
So people are watching, and your struggles are what can help others.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I always say, the work that I do, I say that I share a piece of me. Like, yeah, I teach through my experience by modeling. So and part of that is you seeing how that process is, like the shifts, the turns, the bumps in the roads, and so some of that but you see how you got to keep going. Like
Going.
no matter what's going, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep pressing. And that's been my thing this year, is like, just keep pressing. I had to do that internal talk, like, keep going, girl, just don't stop, keep going, keep going. And so, yeah, because our journeys are different, and we got to keep, just because we have detours doesn't mean the destination has changed.
Correct.
So you just got to keep going. So tell us about the process of writing the chapter, participating in this project. How was that for you? Share your experiences being on the project with 32 other authors.
So, as if for those of you who saw the interview with Nina, and I'm sure she told you what her desires were, and she had even said to us, because, hey, I'm going to do this book, come join. And I was like, mm-mm.
Like not me. Thank you, but
And,
no thank you.
and yep, and she would post as each new author would come, and I would shout out and say, "Good job, congratulations, you've got some great authors." And she would respond to me and say, "You'd be good in here." And I'd say, "Mm-mm."
Yeah. Everybody but you, right?
And finally, she posted, "I have one more author to go." And I was feeling kind of guilty because I said, this woman has been working. She has been asking. She has been beseeching
Yeah.
people
Very
to
consistent
join.
and consistent.
And so my thought was, I'll just put her out of her misery so she doesn't have to ask anymore. And so I said, okay, I will. Now, when I did, I gave her a couple of topics and said, well, what do you think about this? Because again, the topic is you can. And at any age, we have overcome multiple things. So I said, which topic do you think is appropriate? She never responded. But I couldn't write anything. And I'm like, Lord, okay, I caught myself doing my friend a favor. That's what I'm like, because so she
Right.
wouldn't have to ask. But I can't come up with what to write. And a business mentor asked me to speak for the team, for their team, and she says, I want you to share your struggles. I want people to see what you have gone through to get where you are. And I did. I spoke on that Wednesday night. And as soon as I finished speaking, I said, I know exactly what to write. And I was able to write the chapter within a few hours. And it flew. But the thing that was most important, it was again in that vulnerability of sharing the people think you have it together.
Right.
And yeah, I have a lot together, but there are those other parts that I never wanted anybody to know. And so the whole process was a wonderful process. So I will just say, if you're considering writing a book and Nina does another compilation, the whole process, the interaction with the other authors, the interviews, just the whole thing, it was professional, it was fun, and it was uplifting. So I loved it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you joined in the final hour. And for those of you coming in, we are talking about You Can, 33 stories to uplift and inspire everyday people. And there's 33 authors in here. Daria Rosen, and you can find her at Daria Rosen, and myself are in the book. You can grab it on her website, dariarosen.com, and check it out. If you are joining us, just say hello to us in the comments, throw some emojis. If you have questions for her, ask her in the comments, and we'll definitely get it. Now, if you're watching this on the replay or listening to this, you can always reach out, post below, or reach out to dariarosen.com. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to say about your chapter? Because we're going to talk a little bit, or go to other parts of the book, or just talk about the book in general. So before we do that, is there anything else in your chapter, about the experience, that you'd like to share before we shift?
The only thing that I would like to add is those things that make you the most comfortable may be the things that are the most beneficial. It may not seem so at the time, but if it makes you wince, if it makes you think, then it got your attention. And so then we have to move from that.
Right. I love that. I love that. So there's other authors in here. Are there any other stories, any other things in here that you found interesting? Maybe the title of certain stories that you haven't read yet that you want to read because you noticed it. Are there anything else that you find interesting? I know that we are not finished reading the book if you're reading with us. However, because Daria is here this week, I want to get her take on just the book in general, like what she thinks about the overall book.
So the overall book, that title, You Can, there are things in here when I read it, look, and I've got mine. There are things that people have overcome that made me think, oh, mine is light. Mine is light. It's sort of,
Thought the
to be
same
honest,
thing. I thought the very same thing. I was thinking, oh my goodness, like maybe my story is shouldn't be in here because I'm just, because it's not that. Like it wasn't, it was huge for me. It was like a huge aha for me, but it wasn't like physically, and
yes,
emotionally, to where I
yes.
just, but some of them are really because there's a wide range of stories. Yes,
Mhm.
I
And
agree.
that is why that title, about 33 stories to uplift and inspire everyday people, there is a story in here that will touch you. There is a story in here of someone who has gone through things. And if you talk to Trefania, you interviewed Trefania, if you
Yeah.
heard Elegant Granny's story,
Yes.
she she can.
Yes.
And,
That's in the
and we
previous episode.
we have other people here who have undergone life-threatening situations they've overcome. And so everybody struggles. Some of us have different struggles at different times. But you know what I thought about when I was reading some of these is that's not my story, but you know what? I know somebody else
Mhm.
who they may need to hear this particular story.
Absolutely. Yes. I agree because there are
Or
some
it's
in
not for
there.
me in this, but right now, there's some that are for other people that I know.
Mhm.
And so that to me, oh, but the title that I love, and my husband and I are all, in fact, it's now become a family vernacular, is Nah Son.
Nah, son. Nah, son.
We started
I love
using
it.
it as Nah Son. And so
I could just imagine around the dinner table.
if he says something that I like, I don't like, or whatever, I just say, Nah Son.
Oh,
But
yes, Trifania. If Trifania says everyone's story is important, and
yeah.
that's absolutely true. And I think when you have 33 authors, when you have more than a few authors in a book, and there's different stories, everyone can relate to something in here. And even the stories that I can't relate to, because I experienced it, the message
Hmm.
is inspiring. The message is uplifting. The message is encouraging. And so I will say that if you go to Daria's website, dariarosen.com, and grab your copy, you won't be disappointed because there's something in here for everyone.
Everyone.
And 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 it's nice, and I like it that it's one of those books you don't have to read cover to cover. You can kind of pick and choose, like you can decide what do you feel like today, or what title strikes you today, or and you can don't have to sit for like hours, like because you don't have to get like some books I get kind of wrapped like, oh, I can't wait, I gotta wait to the end of the chapter and then I want to start another chapter. This one, because it's a story from beginning to end in one chapter, you can definitely um go through it. Hello, Shantae. Thank you for joining. So, yeah, so I think that is another good thing about the book.
That
Anything
makes it
else?
fun. That does make it fun because I have not read this one cover to cover the way you would normally read a story.
Right.
And I'll look at the title, it's like, oh, what do I feel like today?
Yes.
This one is the one that, and it has worked out that way that, yep, that's the story that I needed to hear.
Yeah. And then and that's why we're reading this month, and in the reading community. But it was hard setting up the reading plan because of the way it's structured. But I knew in order to get discussion points and to get like to schedule dates with the guests, I had to kind of put it in order. And it was very difficult because I'm thinking, I don't even read it like that. I read it depending on the day, the week, and because each part. So let me just go. I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but there's three parts. Part one is you can believe, you can believe. Part two is you can heal, forgive, and overcome. And part three is you can soar. And that's where Daria and I are. listed in the You Can Soar. So that's what we are this week, and next week is talking about soaring. And so it's in the three parts. And so it just depends on where you are that day, that week, and whenever you pick it up. And I think that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
any final words, any final projects you're on, anything that
Final
you
project.
want to announce,
Yeah,
share?
actually I do. Because I had such a wonderful time with Nina and the compilation with the other individuals, she's doing another one. And this one is The Essentials of Her, the Proverbs 31 Woman. And that one, because I knew what it was that we were speaking of, but I didn't know what I was going to speak. And so I kept praying it, but every time I read Proverbs 31, there were two words that stuck out to me out of the whole chapter. And so that is what my chapter in the next compilation, and that will come out at the end of the year. And that is, again, with a compilation with Nina Thomas, The Essential of Her, Proverbs 31.
So will that be on your website once it's available for
Yes,
people to get? Okay.
yes.
Awesome. 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 So keep checking there, write down her website, check it, and stay tuned because she has more coming. So I love it. Now that is interesting because you didn't want to join this one. And now you're just doing this thing as a regular hobby.
Yeah, well, remember this one. My mother has said since I was a child, Daria, you need to write.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has always said you need to write. I'm like, yeah. Well, guess what I'm doing now?
You're right. Do you think you'll ever write one on your own, just you as the author?
Yes, and I've already started.
Yay!
Um, I started, but I have not put
Yes.
a deadline.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Well,
yes,
that's listen. Like I know about writing. Like sometimes I write. I'm one of those writers that some people can schedule it and do it every day at a certain time. Me, I gotta follow the spirit. So it's when I feel the spirit, and that's when I do it. And so and sometimes I'll get it just like the recent release. And this one, I was probably one of those authors in the final hour submitting because it was just kind of like, oh, okay, now I feel it. And I just got there and just did it in one seating. But it wasn't that way. The same thing with the book. I was inspired to do it because my sister was in the hospital. Like, so I know that even though you started, you don't have to finish it in 90 days. That's all nice and good, but it may be.
oh, I see Nina is in the
In
chat.
the chat. Look, let me flip over. Hello, Nina. We're talking about You Can, and you'll have to watch the replay because Daria said some wonderful things about you in this project. So you make sure you go back and watch. Yes, well, I'm glad she started too. I'm glad she started writing. That is amazing. Um, she's gonna get in your inbox with the goal. So I think you're gonna have a goal for that book. So after the December release, look like you're gonna have more to do. And Trifania says, good, looking forward to it. That is awesome. So
Wonderful.
thank you all for joining. Let me see what else ooh. She joined number 3, just announced. Yes. Oh,
Oh, Nina's doing another one. So I
yes.
think that's what she's talking about. I'll have
Yes.
to look.
Yes, she announced, I think it was this morning or sometime she
Okay.
announced another
Okay.
anthology. I wish I don't know much about it because like you say, I saw it, but I was in the midst of trying to get other things done. So she is burning. So rocking and rolling. So thank you, Daria. Thank you
Thank
for being
you.
here. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate your time. And definitely keep us posted on the next project or projects.
I shall.
With an S.
With an F. With an F.
Oh my goodness. So will you just, before we sign off, would you tell folks how they can connect with you and anything like that you want them to, any particular platform that you want them to follow or connect with you? Any
Sure.
of
As I had said at the beginning, I am Daria Rosen, and you can find me at Daria Rosen or DariaRosen.com. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter as Daria Rosen. I on Instagram am known as the Age Enhancing Ambassador. So I help busy women bloom. That's
Awesome.
how you can find me.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm noticing the chat is blowing up. So I was just trying to see what's been put in there just so we'll know. So she said she's gonna inbox us both. Uh-oh. So she's she's looking out for us already. Thank you, Nina. We appreciate you joining us and being here in the comments to support. So thank you all. Thank you, Daria. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. For those of you who are just coming in on the replay, we have been discussing You Can 33 stories to uplift and inspire. These are stories by 33 authors. They're different stories, and we encourage you to check out the book. You can go to dariarosen.com and get your copy of the book, a signed copy of the book, and it is also available on Amazon. This month, we are discussing You Can. We have one more week of discussions. Next week, we'll have two more authors joining us. And we may have a few more sprinkled in here and there after we finish the book discussion, so to speak, but I'll still have some of them on later. So stay tuned for those announcements. I will post those on my pages, and that way, and you can connect with me. And of course, you can connect with me at Dr. Tammy Francis everywhere. And drtammyfrancis.com. You have just entered in C4C Global Cypher, a virtual book discussion where we are discussing You Can 33 Stories to Uplift and Inspire. We appreciate you joining us today, and we will see you soon. Bye. Thank you, Nina.